Hey, welcome to another update on Archmage Rises. And with me this week to celebrate the launch of Build 12, the dungeon build, 3D Dungeons to everybody, is the rest of the team. Actually, it's not the whole team, and we're having huge technical problems. We just spent the last hour getting it to be as good as it is right now, with Michael's head becoming tiny and big and tiny. Anyways, we're just gonna muddle our way through it. It's buggy like Build 12. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. This is worse than Build 12. Anyway, so with me is the team, and let's start with Michael. Why don't you introduce yourself and how you got on the project?
Hey, I'm Michael Momeyer. I'm currently in Michigan, but I have been up in Canada for a bit, but got stuck on the other side of the border. But I've been working since last fall.
And you have primarily been working on the dungeons.
Pretty much, that's been my bread and butter.
Yep.
Dungeons, dungeon quests, a little bit more dungeons, and bug fixes.
And you started in September.
Yep.
Okay, and the oldest guy here, other than me, is Daniel Lambert. Daniel 1, as we now call him. Daniel, why don't you tell us how you got on Archmage?
I started, I think, pretty much a year ago. It was last May, so yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I worked full-time over the summer, part-time when I went back to college, and now I'm going back to full-time.
And Daniel just drove back from Florida to Northern Ontario. It took him 2 days in order to do it. He graduated. Congratulations. And
Yeah.
I mean, actually, you didn't tell me that you did or you didn't. So, Did you pass? Do you know?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, I
phew.
graduated with honors.
Ooh, with honors.
Even better. Awesome.
Uh-oh, now I gotta pay him more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so now you've been working part-time in the background while Michael and I have been doing most of the work. Actually, it's been Michael, but while we've been doing most of the work in Dungeons. Why don't you just kind of give very briefly, like, what kind of stuff you worked on while you're away at school?
A lot of smaller tasks, but quite a bit. I worked on performance improving the game. I got the map to run a lot better and the game to load faster, so a lot of that type of stuff.
And your head went big and Michael's went small. It's so crappy. Anyway, this is as good as it gets right now for doing this screen sharing. Okay, and you're about to start full-time. You're full-time. You got a full-time job all lined up the second you graduated. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you're excited to work on Build 12.2 starting Monday?
Yeah. Should be good.
All right. And last but not least, we have Daniel 2, which is his new name. And tell us, how did you get on Archmage?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm Daniel Vijay Kumar. There's already a Daniel before me, and so I've been renamed officially. I like the name. So I've been following the game for many years now, and then out of weird circumstances, talked to Thomas sometime last year in the summer, and there's a couple of videos ago, there was this mysterious person who couldn't make it and work with the team, and that was me. But now circumstances have changed. I'm able to be on the team remotely. I work part-time. I'm the youngest. I'm a week old, and I started last week. I did not make any contributions to Build 12, but Build 12.2 or 13, well, that's coming up. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, great. Yeah, it's great to have all of you. So I started working on the 3D Dungeons. Actually, at the time I started, I didn't even know it was 3D Dungeons. I started working on Build 12, the dungeon build. January wasn't the first because that was a holiday and I was still enjoying playing video games because that's what I do during the holidays. But I started like basically January 5th or something, and I was like, okay, let's make the dungeons good. And I started working with the 2D dungeons that we had, and I started running into some problems, and I was talking with Roger, and I was like, how do we get a camera angle like this, and how do we do a wide room, how do we do like a long narrow room, like how do we do this, like draw me some pictures and stuff. And he was like, why don't you just make it 3D? And I was like, nah, that'll never work. And so we started exploring that, and between the two of us, we had about a minute of 3D experience. So I went to some other people like Nick, he's worked on 3D games, and friends of mine like Brock has worked on 3D games, and some other people, and just said, hey, what do you think about this idea of doing procedurally generated dungeons in 3D? And I don't know why people's heads keep getting bigger and smaller. So completely ludicrous. Anyway, so I said, like, is this crazy? Should I do this? And I even took it to the fans, and I said, hey, we kind of had this crazy idea of making the dungeons like 3D. What do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? And the question was, well, how long do you think it's going to take? And I said, well, I think it's going to take about 3 months. Probably the fact that it's going to take me 3 months anyway in order to make the dungeons good. But if I do them in 3D, there's like a bunch of things that I have to learn. Maybe it'll take an extra month or two or something like that. Anyway, it's been 16 months. It's been 16 months. And thousands of hours have gone into this. So I was actually going to ask Michael before this call to do a toggle report to be able to tell me, like, how many hours have you put into this thing. But I can very quickly say it's at least 700 and something hours that you've put into it. Daniel showed up here in May. The first thing he was working on in May was 3D Dungeons, right? Do you remember that, Daniel?
Yeah. My first task was to get the dungeons into the game.
Yeah, I really enjoy the trial by fire, like just throw them in, see if they can swim approach to hiring. So I was like, hey, new guy who hasn't graduated yet and we just met, come on in, and I got a little task for you. Just take these 2D dungeons and replace it with 3D dungeons. And here, I have a prototype. I have a prototype, and just, implement that. And the amazing thing was, it didn't take you very long. Do you remember that first kind of version you had working?
Yeah, it took about 2 or 3 days, I think. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so that was crazy. 2 or 3 days, and he was like, hey, look, you can like click on the doors and navigate through, and like all the game logic was working and stuff. So I don't know if that's a testament to Nick, who made the 2D dungeon scene, that he architected that well, or if it's a testament to just how smart Daniel 1 is. I mean, we don't know about Daniel 2, that's still coming, but Daniel 1 was able to swap out 2D dungeons and put in 3D dungeons in a couple of days. So that comes to the question of why did it take you so long to finish Daniel's work? I mean, the guy basically had it done.
Because you kept on adding new features.
Okay, actually that's true. I did keep adding new features. But okay, so this is what happened. So it didn't take 3 months, and it didn't take 6 months, and it didn't take 9 months. And it was getting to this point where it's like, holy cow, this is taking so long. And I just want to do a shout out for Barbecue Bomb. I think his name is Barbecue Bomb or Firebomb or something. Anyway, when I said, hey, should we make the dungeons in 3D? And here's the reasons why I think we should do that. Hey, it'll actually be faster in the end. Boy, that was a lie. But we'll be able to reuse art assets. So things that are in the distance or things that are on the wall on the left can also be on the right. And actually that ended up being true. Roger ended up not making very much money because we went to 3D dungeons. I was expecting to pay him like a whole lot to generate like all these art assets and stuff. But then when we went 3D, you just need one barrel. You don't need like lots of different angles and versions of a barrel, because the 3D camera takes care of all that. So anyways, Roger didn't make out so great in that decision, but Emily did, because we brought on a 3D artist, Emily. Anyway, so we were taking so long to make this thing, and Barbecue Bomb said, I don't think you should do 3D dungeons. I think it's going to take a lot longer than you said. And he was right. And here we are 16 months later. And he was right. So you win, Barbecue Bomb, for being right. And I don't know, I guess I lose for being wrong. Anyway, so here we are, tens of thousands of dollars later, and thousands of hours of work later, and we now have 3D dungeons, and everybody can play it and try it. Now, that does not mean that they're like amazing and we're done. It just means that it's done enough. It's done enough that you can play it and hopefully enjoy it. And before we recorded this call, we went on to recording this call, actually somebody from the Small Council group played it, and he enjoyed it. He played it for 2 hours. He said he was having a good time, and he wants to play it even more. So we're on to something. Now, the reason that there's so many features that have been added to it is because I wanted to fix how the dungeons were played. Like, I didn't think I was going to spend, 14 months just with the tech and then 2 months with the design. I thought it would be like a month with the tech and 2 months for the design or something like that. So anyway, here we are, and now the traps are different, and levers, and the AI locks doors and hides keys, and you have to go find them, and it figures out the best path through the dungeon for the player, and it starts putting traps in the way and monster encounters, and there's like all kinds of stuff, and all the decoration and hiding treasures, and if you go into a dungeon, for instance, and you're looking for the Sword of Fargol or something, we don't actually know where that sword is going to be in the dungeon, and it's actually possible for it to be early in the dungeon. It's not always in the very last room that you look for it, although like looking for your keys, it's always in the last place you look. So anyways, there's just like tons of logic and stuff that went into all that. So because it was taking so long, it was like, oh man, this thing has to actually be good. Like, if we had done 3D dungeons in like 2 months or something, then it's like, it's there, it kind of works or whatever. But once we got to month 9 and 12 and 15, I was like, oh no, it's got to be good. It's got to be, we got to prove that it was worth all this time in order to do it. So what do you guys think? You've played around with it. What do you think of the 3D dungeons?
I think they're really good, especially testing it recently, like with fixing bugs and stuff and playing through it. It's been really fun.
I mean, most of the time I just see the bugs and unfinished features that I'm still working on. But when I sit back and work on something else and I see what Daniel 1 or what Daniel 2 is working on, and I'm like, oh, it's working. And it's something I'm not putting in, and it's awesome. And I get to run around, and it's always cool seeing new stuff come in or new assets from Emily.
Mm-hmm. Like, I was debugging a playthrough and stepping through the scene, I realized this is lots of fun. I can keep debugging, I lost track of the task I was working on. But anyway, so.
Yay! So this is my hope for everybody. Hey, the first fan is right here. Okay, I'm a fan of Archmage Rises. That's why I keep working on it. I'm now in my 6th year of working on it, and the point of this is, if we put our time and effort into a feature, that it actually comes out feeling pretty good. If that was not the case, then I should stop now, right? Like, it's like, oh wow, we worked on this thing and now it still sucks. So the fact that people are kind of enjoying this stuff, it's like, oh, okay, good. Like, so if we do put the time and the effort into working on the dungeons, working on the quest systems, working on the simulator, working on the NPC interactions, working on the combat, if we put the time in, then we will actually have a good game here. So build 12 or 12.1 is hopefully an indication that, hey, if we sink a bunch of time into something, then something good will come out of it. It is absolutely not finished. Okay, so I don't want to oversell it. Build 12 is not finished. I wish the dungeon rooms looked better. I wish we had more rooms. I wish. There's like all kinds of stuff, but I think it's solid. Would you guys agree with that? Like,
yeah,
yep.
It's solid. It's a firm foundation that we can add more rooms, we can add more interactivity. From one of the early testers, he just posted and said, hey, I want to be able to disarm these traps. Like, now the fact that I detected the trap, I want to be able to disarm it. He's right. Okay, Will Sama, you're right. We should allow you to disarm them. So, like, we're still going to do that kind of stuff, right? But we have a firm foundation, and now to add in trap disarming, not a big deal. I always say every feature is not a big deal. That's how I convince people to work on them, including myself. I'm like, oh, that can't be that hard, and then I start working on it, and then 18 months go by. But anyway, so the first thing is, hey, if we sink a bunch of time into something, we can actually make it pretty good. So that's a good indication of the team. The second thing is, when I started on the dungeons, it was just me last January, And now look at everybody here. We have 4 of us, and most importantly, we have 4 of us going forward. There's 4 of us going forward. So for the people that have been following this game for years, okay, remember, I'm fan number 1. I've been following it for 6 years. So there are people that have been following it for 6 years, and there's people that have been following it for 5 and 4 and 3, and some people that just found out about a couple months ago. So my plan is to put together this team, and I think this is the right team. I think we have all the right people in place, and to accelerate to the finish line. That's what I'm hoping to do. That's why there's 4 people on this video, is because it's not just me, it's 4 of us now working on this thing. Daniel and Michael are full-time. Daniel 2 is currently part-time. Okay, something needs to change in my life in order to help make him full-time, but anyway, for the time being, that's the way that it is, and so we're going to accelerate forward. So we're going to work on combat next, and the big question everybody has is, how long is that going to take?
When will it be done?
Now, build 11 took a year. It took me an entire year, and then I was like, oh man, sorry it took me a year to put out a build, but here it is, and I'll never do that again. So I took a year and a half. So I kept my word that I did not put out a build a year. So the next build, combat, will be done in 2 years. You heard it here first. The trajectory says it's going to take 2 years to get combat done. Okay, anyway, I think that because I have a team here, I can actually start laying the groundwork for the combat while the rest of the team is working, continuing on with the dungeon tasks. We have a big pile of tasks in Asana. I think the last count I saw, there's like 40 tasks that are still outstanding on the dungeons. So it's not like we need new tasks for the combat system. But anyway, we need to get that going. And so Michael and Daniel are going to be working full-time on the dungeons starting on Monday. And we're going to put out, right now is 12.1. And I think next Friday we could do 12.2. I don't know if it's going to be Friday, but anyways, the next version is 12.2, and there'll probably be a 12.3, and maybe even a 12.4. And while all that's happening, we can get going on the combat system and stuff, and hopefully we can start to get a release cadence that is faster than every 12 months. What do you guys think?
That sounds good
like,
to me.
Yeah,
Everybody's for releases that come out sooner. Okay. That's great. So Daniel 2 is going to be the primary dungeon tech guy. I think you already knew that.
Yep.
I hope you're not just hearing about it in the update video like you did last
Wait,
time.
what? I thought I was working on combat, Thomas. What is this?
Yeah, that's right. A little bait and switch. So Michael can work with me full time on the combat. Daniel 2 is going to be continuing to work on the tech. So specifically, do you want to tell people specifically what tech you're working on?
Right. There are only like 3 or 4 room types, and we got way more down the pipeline, right? So I'll be focusing on the dungeon rooms, making them more interesting, decorating them to, look more dungeony and more variety, and also to be able to get sensible loot from dungeons. You don't want to get a torch from a throne room or something like that. So those are the 2 tasks I've been working on so far. I'll be continuing to work on them, and other bugs here and there that come up.
Yeah. So more room types, better decoration to the rooms, because I think there's a ways to go. It's like the walls. The walls are really bare. And, we got some banners in, and we got some art paintings and stuff, but there's just... We spent so much time just getting things on the ground that when it came to working on the walls, it was like, oh crap, this is like a whole new technological difficulty. Right, Michael?
Yep.
Yeah, he was not too impressed that he had to do so much more work on the wall. And you would think that the floors and the walls, like, isn't that just the same? You're just flipping like an X to a Y or something?
Well, you can't just randomly scatter stuff on a wall. It's much more apparent when it's just randomly scattered there. If it's randomly scattered somewhere else, it's not always as bad, because, you look around at some of your kids' rooms or my room at a time now and then, and it's sort of just random. but you put stuff up on walls and it should look like, someone put that there rather than some algorithm decided, let's rotate it here at 33 degrees in the middle of this bit, or something over there. Torches on top of each other. It's not fun.
Another funny one is torches on top of banners. Like it looks like it should go up in flames, and yet it's perfectly fine. You don't get that when you're dealing with the floor. So definitely challenges with the walls. That's why the walls are kind of bare and stuff. So that's what I mean. Like when we play test and we're going through, we're like, oh man, I wish the walls were less bare, and oh man, I wish the treasure made more sense. There's like all these things that we don't notice. So this is what we need you, the fans. This is what we need from you. Is like, what do you think is good about it? Like, how does it actually feel to you? Because we just see like all the problems. How do you like it? And secondly, what do you think we need to do? Like, you tell us. Like, what should we be working on? You got 4 guys here. We have nothing else to do but work on Archmage. What should we put our attention into? And we did release Build 12.0 to the small council, basically with that question. We said, hey, like, we know we're not done. We know there's like problems and stuff, but can you play this and tell us where should we focus our energies, right? Like we got a list of like 40 things to do, but what are the top 5? What are the top 10 that we need to do? And they did. They told us, and we took, what was it, 2 weeks, Michael? Did we spend 2 weeks?
Pretty much.
Yeah, 2 weeks. We did 2 weeks, and we focused on all those things. We uncovered some more things ourselves. We focused on all those things. And so what you play in Build 12.1 is better, more streamlined, less problems than what the small council went through, because they told us what to focus on. So if you want to go on Steam forums and say, hey, this is what I like about the dungeons, this is what I don't like, I think you should focus on that, we'll read that, and we will drive the task management system based on what you guys are telling us. So that's what you guys can do in order to help us get a good game out. I don't have anything else that I wanted to share. Do you guys want to say anything to the fan base?
We hope you like the build.
That's right. Have fun playing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Daniel 2 is just a little excited to be on a video update, whereas he's watched so many of them.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I never thought this would happen. It's crazy.
We're all glad you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel 2 is just a fan, just following this thing, and now he's working on it. And he was pretty excited when he got the GitHub access, and he was like, "Oh man, look, I'm downloading all the things, all the code. It's all on my computer. It's amazing." Okay, so thank you guys for joining me on this crazy journey. Thank you for being crazy enough to come and make me look sane. And thank you, fans, everybody who has pre-ordered already Archmage. You help employ these guys, basically.
Yay.
yeah, that really helps. Thanks for following the game and still being interested after all this time. And we hope to deliver you something amazing that fulfills all the promises that have been made on the website. And I think the dungeons are an example that we can do it. We can do it, and we're going in the right direction. So, Okay, well, that's it. And enjoy Build 12, and we'll talk to you on the forums. Bye!
Bye.